everybody. It's Nakia. How are you today? You're stuck with just me today, but I have a co-host. The wonderful Alexis Cardosa is helping me out today. Nakia had a conflict, so she's not joining, but I'm super excited to welcome my friend Ann Knapp to the show today. Ann Knapp, no, also known as Ann Austen. She was Ann Knapp to me when I was on the show with her. She was one of our amazing producers and writers on the show. When I was on the show, Ann and I had a very close relationship. She was very involved with everything Zio specifically. And I'm so excited to welcome her. She's a wealth of knowledge on Power Rangers, and you guys are going to love hearing all of her insights of the show.
Hi.
Yeah. How was that for an intro?
Well, your intro was lovely. Mine was very appropriate. I'm a behind the scenes person. I don't like to be on camera, so I'm sorry if I'm nervous, but it's wonderful.
She's nervous. Oh, I'm so happy. I know we kind of talked into it a little bit because I just think it's really important for the fans to hear about what was going on behind the scenes and how you integrated the Japanese footage into the show and how you had to, like, that was a huge feat to try and incorporate the Japanese footage and making the stories interesting for the American audiences. So I just thought it would be fun to have you on to discuss all that with the fans.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. It was such a great experience, such a great show, so much fun still to this day right here. So happy to share whatever I can.
So I have a question for you. How did you get into producing and writing? Was that something you were always interested in, or did it just kind of fall into your lap? How did that all come about?
Well, ever since I could write, like first grade, I wanted to write. I love telling stories. I love writing. I love to talk. And I just love storytelling. I did go to film school. So I have a master's and a bachelor's in film. And I just loved television in particular. And I always loved kids' TV. That was my special forte in school. And then when I got out of film school, I really, really wanted to work in the kids' TV part of the business. But I ended up at Fox as an executive. And so I didn't really get into writing and producing until I was able to move over to Power Rangers.
And you've told me in the past that Margaret Loesch was like an amazing mentor for you and really kind of like helped you understand the industry and kind of got you involved. Tell us a little bit about Margaret and how that relationship kind of evolved.
Well, she was a saint. She is a saint. She's still with us, but she was such a pioneer. So many great shows came out under her watch, including this one. And she was a real dynamo, but soft-spoken. She was from the South. She was very genteel, very polite, always very kind. She's a mother, so she was always very sensitive to the needs of our audience as children, but also to our needs as mothers. Many of us at Fox at the time were young mothers. And so she was just always really ahead of the curve in terms of understanding what it was like to be a working mother. And she just had amazing sensibility of what kids would like, what was good for kids, what was entertaining. And yet she was also an amazing politician, you know. The show was very controversial. Those times, the 90s, were fraught with a lot of political interference in kids' TV. And she was always so great at finding the balance between art and commerce, between how to get what you needed to get done, but also understanding how to work with the forces that were against us in some ways. And there weren't many women like her in business at that time. So she really gave me my career. I started in affiliate promotion and at the Fox Kids Club. I actually was on the marketing side and the promotion side and running the Fox Kids Club and working with all the affiliates and all the local Fox markets around the country. And but I had this love of writing and storytelling, and I told her about it, and she gave me my break. She brought me over from the business side or the marketing side to be a creative. And that really changed my career and put me on the trajectory I've been on ever since. So she took a chance on
I love that. I love that. And I hear that she was like that with many people. She just loved to give and such an advocate for women in the industry too. So I love that. So how did you end up getting over to Power Rangers from Fox Kids? How did that evolve? I remember you were pregnant when you joined Power Rangers.
Well, I was the exec on the show. So my job at Fox. So once Margaret moved me over to programming, I'll just never forget. I was in charge of reading all the scripts, giving notes, watching all the animatics, being involved in casting. I was involved in the creative from the network side. And I started with Power Rangers on that side in about 1990, right at the very beginning. Like I was there at the pilot. I wouldn't have my first kid, but then when I came back from maternity leave, they gave me the show. They picked up the pilot. They said, we're in production. And Margaret literally said to me, I just need 40 episodes. Just make sure we get through 40 episodes and it'll pay for itself and it'll have been a good deal. She told me later that her job was on the line. If the show had not performed, she would have been fired. So she'd never put that pressure on me, but she just like, do a good job, make it a good show. We all believed in the show. So that's how I started on the executive side.
Wow. Now, when you joined the show, so for those of you listening, Doug, Sloan, and Ann were like a power couple, husband and wife team. Work wife and work husband.
Marriage wife, yeah.
Marriage, yes, for
business,
work.
Business husband and wife. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But how did you get paired together? And was it, did you feel that connection right away with him? Because just as an actor, I felt that the episodes that you and Doug wrote together were really a big shift from what I'd read before you guys started writing. I felt like there was a lot of consideration to the actors and kind of you guys talked to us a lot about what our hobbies were and what our interests were and tried to incorporate who we were as people into our characters. And there just was a lot more depth, I felt, in Zio specifically. So did you feel like you and Doug had that spark right away, or did that take time to develop?
No,
as writers?
It was pretty instantaneous. Remember though, because I was on the show on the network side, I had essentially been his boss before. So he had to take my notes. So I came in with that experience where he's like, I know her notes and we have to take them because I was the network. But then when Hyman Shuki brought me from Fox to actually work on the show, I had never produced television. I'd never written for television. I knew I could do it. I had my academic background, but I was very green in terms of being in the weeds, making the show every day. Whereas Doug had already been writing for Power Rangers for a while. And of course, he was an actor. So he had that acting perspective that was really, really important. But really he was apprehensive, that here comes the network exec and she's going to be trying to tell me what to do. And I was really nervous because I was new as a producer. But we just matched. We had a really great similar vision, the same vision of what we wanted the show to be. And we both wanted it to be rich, deep, fun. It was a fun show, but we wanted a little more, Zio in particular, I think, got a little more dramatic, and that was really fun to play with. So, we went on to be partners for a long time after that. And then we still work together now on occasion, all these years later. So it was just, we were very simpatico, and we had different skills. So because I had been an executive, I knew how to do notes. I knew how to read a script and envision what it was going to look like and where the story maybe needed some adjustment. And he knew the dialogue, he knew the characters, he knew what it would be like for an actor to perform it. So we used to say, I'm structure, he's dialogue. And that was a really, really good, we complemented each other very well.
Yes, I would definitely say that the scripts were very well structured. And I also just really loved, like you were saying, that there was a lot of heart in Zio. And I think a lot of fans have now, as adults, gone back and watched Zio and have a different appreciation for it as an adult, because there really was a lot of moral messages in that season. And it had a lot of color and depth to it. So I appreciated that as an actor. Alex, do we have any drama? There was a lot of drama in Zio. I know. I still hear about it to this day. with that Dear Tommy letter. Oh dear. Okay, Alex, do we have any questions on the screen from
Yeah,
our
so
fans?
here I'll put this one up right here. This one's coming in from Court Hyatt. I hope I said that correctly. Hi, Ann, Kat, Nakia, and Alex. What was your favorite episode you wrote or helped write? Do you have a favorite moment with any of the actors?
Wow. I have to answer that? Look, I knew the subject of favorites is going to come up, right? And the truth is, you're like asking me to pick between my children because I love everything and all of it. There's something magical about everything I did. Bringing Kat onto the show was a real triumph because, taking over for Amy Jo was big shoes to fill. And her story and, the bad girl goes good is always popular, but you did such a beautiful job with it. And it was so lovely getting to know you. And you really did a great job there helping us out of what could have been a sticky situation.
Thank you.
I loved White Light. Because that was when I was on the network side, but that episode was so dramatic and so historic and so seminal in not just Power Ranger history, but in kids history. It was one of the highest rated television episodes of all time. So it was remarkable. My history with the show, I don't know if we've mentioned it, but I came back after Turbo and I did Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder. So coming back to the show a number of years later was really fun. We got to film in New Zealand, and that's when I really came into my own as a writer because I'd always been sort of with Doug, and a lot of times I didn't even put my name on the scripts because that's how insecure I was, even though we would write every word together. But when I was on Dino Thunder and Ninja Storm, I started putting my name as a solo writer on the scripts. So from a personal career growth and an artistic growth, that was really, really powerful for me. There's just, I have a special spot in my heart for Jason, of course. Jason Frank and I were very close. He was like my little brother. I'm going to get emotional. Try not to. But, there were many times that he would come to me for counsel because his life would be a little bumpy at times. And just giving him confidence. I would go to bat for him a lot with Shuki and Chaim because, he's kind of a bad boy and he would do things that they didn't like. He came in one day he came in with both ears pierced. And that was like a huge uproar. Like, oh my God.
Do you remember the corn incident when he went to a corn concert and showed up with a gash and you and Doug were like, what the heck, Jason?
Yeah.
And he thought it was hilarious. We didn't even mention it in the episode. Like, I'm like, why didn't we say what's on your face?
I think we said we started shaving. I think we did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think at least we talked about it. They just covered self-shaving. That's what
oh my gosh. That is so funny. Yeah, he was a little wild child, that one.
Yeah.
But so can you just touching on the White Light episode, there was a lot going on with that decision with Jason because he was going to do Cybertron and then they wanted to keep him on the show because he was the most popular Ranger. Can you just tell the fans a little bit about, from the producer side, how Jason ended up becoming the White Ranger and what that all entailed?
Yeah. And actually that was when I was on the network side and so when they aired the episode when he left, Green Ranger finished his arc and he was out. The phone at Fox rang off the hook. Parents were calling us, kids were calling us, crying, screaming, bring back Tommy, bring back Tommy. And in those days, you could still call the network and get the people in charge. And Margaret Lesh, she saw all these parents and kids crying and or heard them on the phone. And she's like, bring him back. Just, I don't care what it takes, bring him back. And, it was all tied to the footage, right? The footage from Japan didn't have that much Green Ranger footage. So they had to come
because he died in the Japanese show, didn't he? Yes, that's right.
So there was no more Green Ranger footage.
Yes.
So they had to come up with, and this was really on the Saban side. That's when the writers at that time came up with the storyline to bring in the White Ranger so that we could use footage, because the footage is all tied to the budget and production deadlines and everything. So they had to use footage for him. So they had to find a character that was standalone that they could, incorporate into the rest of the group. So, but it really, there was no plan to bring him back, but the public outcry was so big that Margaret said, we got to find a way to bring him back.
So you said there was standalone footage. So is that the reason that they started doing the second unit footage in American, and instead of using Sentai in season 2 and 3?
Yes, because we had used up most of the footage already.
Right.
We had to shoot, and we were, the budget went up a little bit, so we had the luxury of doing that. We brought over Alpha Stunts, who had done it in Japan, so they knew how to do the footage and knew how to stop shooting that style of martial arts.
Yes.
So we were able to do that. We needed to film more to tie the bits together when they, if we were using footage from the White Ranger pieces and then the Mighty Morphin pieces, sometimes you'd have to bring in your own actors and film it to make it seem like they came together. So it was it was about getting creative of how to still use the footage, but also it just came a necessity to film a lot of our own stuff. Even by the time we got to Ninja Storm. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
By the time we got, and we grew in confidence. So by the time we got to Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder, we actually used a whole lot less footage. We filmed a lot of our own action sequences.
Yeah.
That was something that evolved.
So it was almost like you had to put a puzzle together. So it wasn't just writing the episode. It was like integrating all these pieces. Like, I remember having a conversation with Doug about that. He's like, some of these monsters, we're like, what the heck are we going, what kind of story are we going to write around this monster? Like,
100%.
I mean, some of them were so crazy. Like, I remember there was one in Zio where it was a purse monster. I don't know what it was in Japan, but it was this big pink, ugly looking thing. And you guys made it so Kat made an ugly purse and you created this great story. But it was like, how are we going to do this? So funny.
That was every day, pretty much every day at work. So Japan was 1 year ahead of us. So they would finish their season and then send us their 52 episodes in Japanese. And we would watch them and go, oh, I like that fight scene. I like that fight scene. I like that monster. I like that prop. And then we would write a story around the pieces that we liked. And we had to get very creative. But I think that's the magic of the show, is that weird mix of crazy Japanese stuff and then Western style storytelling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was genius. It really was. Alex, do we have another question?
Yeah, and I mean, I just want to tell you, Ann, I could sit here and ask you a billion questions just because I grew up in this era. So, I'm still a child at heart. So listening to you talk,
you're I love that era of kid. You're like,
oh my God.
Yes.
I don't know where it all went away and why Fox Kids. I mean, I understand why you just mentioned it. It's all political. So
I'll tell you about that after.
Let's talk. Tom O'Neill just sent us a super chat, and I'll put it up on screen as well so you guys can read it. Tom says, you worked on many seasons, both in the US and New Zealand. How different was it working on each one? Do you prefer writing shows for kids or for more mature audiences?
I'll start with the last one. Mature kids is the answer. I've always been in the kids business. I love kids. I love writing for kids. I did a lot of Disney Channel movies, so that was sort of like family entertainment is also a space I really love, but my heart and soul is kids. And if the parents want to watch with them, great, but I really do prefer writing for kids. It's more freeing and fun, but I like the stories to have depth and be meaningful for kids. So not just light and fluffy, but good stuff for them to think about and life lessons and things to help them grow. I guess I just am a mom at heart. They used to call me the Power Rangers mom, and I wear that proudly. And then New Zealand and the Saban days were completely different in some ways. Some similar in that we still got the show from Japan a year, after they finished, they sent us their props and all the footage, and we still created the show the same way. But, working in New Zealand had different labor laws, like one
Mhm.
weird little thing, like they shoot there Sunday to Thursday because they couldn't just shut
Yes.
down the parks or public spaces to film. So we had to film on Sundays because we couldn't interrupt traffic. And the pyro laws were different. The everything was, there was a lot of different regulations. One of my favorite stories about filming in New Zealand is that we were going to film on Maori sacred land. And when you get a permit to film on those sacred lands, you have to ask permission from their gods to be allowed to film there. So there's a whole ceremony where the tribe comes out and the leader says words, and then you guys sing songs back and forth between the production and the local people. And then if the sun rises, they consider that the gods have smiled on you and you can film there. And they say if you don't go through that process, you will be haunted by the ancestors, or like if it's burial grounds, you'll be haunted by the ancestors. So we were very respectful of the Maori culture and the Maori traditions, and luckily nobody was haunted.
Thank goodness for that. How scary.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
The Saban days was the Wild West. So by the time we got to New Zealand, it was Union, it was Disney, it was much more standardized, even with the craziness from Japan. Saban days is Wild West. Nobody knew what they were doing. Many had never worked in television before. Many of us had never worked in television before. And even those who had, no one had done a show like this. We were making it up as we went. So I consider those years my real film school, because that was when we really learned how to make a show, how to edit. I learned everything about post-production. So it was very different.
I felt the same as an actor. Like, a lot of us, it was our first like series regular job. And I remember just Ilan, our DP, just teaching me so much about hitting your mark and where to find your light and all these things that you take for granted. People often, forget. Like, you have to learn that somewhere. And I feel really grateful for that, of just, even though it was the Wild West, it was like really an amazing training ground for so many of us.
And he was one of the
so many have gone.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, so many people have gone on to be hugely successful, from Power Rangers, directors, writers, producers, actors. So it's quite amazing.
It was an amazing training ground. And I was just going to give Ilan a shout out, because he was one of the more experienced ones, and he was so kind and so patient and very helpful.
He was an incredible human being. He was like my dad. I just loved him so much. He was just such a calming presence too. He took me to meditation classes with him, and I remember him was like, he just took care of me. He was so sweet. Alex, why don't you ask some questions? You have Ann here.
I will. Especially, I'm going to clear through these super chats that we got through, because I know, our members here are important. But I did want to say that I became friends with JDF through Steve Cardenas. So we built a good bond, and we became friends, and we would text each other. And you are 100% correct, because he would send me voice notes, which I still have, about the Wild Wild West of that era. So you are correct.
Oh yeah, we lived it.
This next one's coming in from Ryan Van Story. Hi, Ann. What inspired you to become a writer? And are there any writers whose work you admire? Hi, Kat and Alex. I hope you all have a great week.
Hi, Ryan.
I think I was just born to write. I've just always loved it. I always wanted to do it. And like I said, I didn't start out in writing, but I worked my way in. I tell him, my dad was an attorney. And so he was like, no, you need a real job. Go to college, get a real job. And so I didn't know you could make a living as a writer. And then I get to college and I'm like, oh, you can go to film school? This is great. But I just always wanted to be a writer. And I feel like my passion just took me to where I wanted to be. And I've grown. I wasn't great in the beginning. I'll be really honest. It took me a while to get better at dialogue and everything. I understood story and structure, but it took a lot of practice to get to where I am today, where I do kind of feel like I'm a better writer by far now than I was back then. And what was the other part of his question? I forgot. Like, who do I
Was
admire? Oh, I
yeah, who do you
admire
admire? Yeah.
so many. I mean, we were just talking at lunch. I'm in a meeting right now. We were talking about like some of the great kid shows of recent years, like Gravity Falls,
Mm.
Phineas and Ferb. I have a lot of influence from like 70s and 80s sitcoms that were really inspirational. Um, I just met a woman that she actually was nominated for the Oscar last year for her short. And I kind of sometimes I compare myself to people who've achieved that level of success, and I'm like, oh, I so look up to
Oh,
her, and she's working on all these big sitcoms, and she won an Oscar, and I'm a little hard on myself, but for the path I chose, the people that inspired me most were just the people that I loved watching their shows as a kid. Sid and Marty Krofft was a huge influence on me. Just shows that made me as a kid feel that I wasn't being talked down to, and that someone was listening to where I was as a kid. And so that's what I try to emulate in my work too.
I love
yeah,
that, by the way. That's how we
yeah,
all felt, by the way. As when I was growing up, I was what 10 years old when Power Rangers premiered, 10 or 11, and that's all we wanted, right? We just wanted to be listened to and heard, and
yes,
kind of share that drama that the Rangers were going as teenagers, like us growing up, like back and forth, like, hey, I'm going through that too. So yeah, you hit the nail
yeah,
on the head
Oh,
on that
good.
one.
yeah. I love that.
This next one here is from a lover of green. You and D. Sloan wrote several Disney Channel original movies. How hard was movie writing compared to Power Rangers? By the way, Motocross is a banger of a movie.
Thank you. That is one of my favorites. Um, well, it was doing those movies that brought us back to Power Rangers, because after we left Power Rangers the first time, we ended up at Disney Channel and we were doing a lot of the Disney Channel movies, and it was different. The expectation at Disney was very high. They take a lot longer and they do a lot more revisions. Power Rangers, we were like boom, boom, boom. We got to go. We got to go. We were constantly churning them out. We had so many episodes, so many deadlines, and we started always with the Japanese footage. So we always had something that started, and the toys, of course. We always had to incorporate the toys. So there was pieces to start out with. And we had a formula. We created a formula. We knew there's going to be a putty fight in Act One. There's going to be the Zord. It's going to grow, and we're going to have the big fight at the end. When you're writing the movies, you're kind of on your own, and Disney is very critical. And it's a longer story that you have to really grow over the 90 minutes or the 2 hours. So it was a different process, and it took some getting used to. But a lot of the same hallmarks that made our Disney movies popular and successful were in Power Rangers. Not talking down to kids. We always had action. We wanted to keep a good pace so that kids felt, involved all the way through. And then real believable teen situations, real believable, relatable characters. So everything we learned in Power Rangers, we used in the Disney Channel movies. And because we were doing the Disney Channel movies, when Disney bought Saban, they said, hey, you guys used to do Power Rangers. Why don't you go back? And we did. And that was,
That's so
another
awesome.
chapter.
I'm like a little kid in a
That's
candy
really
store right now.
cool. I love it.
Now I want to ask you a question, right? About the Disney era, right? That was a big shift, I'm sure, for everyone there. And to kind of like piggyback off what you said too before about the writing and stuff like that, I think the writers of X-Men, the original X-Men, around that same era that you were a part of, they were the same way, right? They were writing so you could understand what was happening in those stories. They weren't like talking down at people or anything like that. So here's my question for you. You and Douglas are credited with, from what I read, with helping keep Power Rangers alive when Disney considered canceling it. How did that all come about?
I you know what? I don't know that to be true. I did not experience that. I know there's lore that it wasn't
Yeah,
doing well and that it was being threatened. That wasn't true. Like, it was doing great.
yeah,
Um, and it went on for what, 4 seasons after we
yeah.
left. So I think there was it never had achieved the same level of success that it did in the early years. But of
Mhm.
course, the world had changed. Cable didn't even exist in the early years of the show.
Mm.
Um, but what we did do is we showed them, and I know this for a fact, we showed them that it could be a Disney branded property. Now, they claim in the end that that's why they ultimately gave it back, that they
Right.
felt like it could never become a Disney branded property. But what that meant to them was quality writing, quality storytelling, quality acting. They didn't know what they had bought. They
Right.
really
Right.
didn't understand the show. They
Right.
didn't understand the appeal. They didn't
Mm.
understand the success it had had. They had never watched it. Honestly, they had never
Yeah.
watched it. So when we did in our first script for Ninja Storm, I think we did 21 drafts. That's a lot.
Wow.
That's a
Wow.
lot. Usually you do, maybe 10 on a pilot for a new show, maybe. But 21 was a lot. They were uncomfortable. They didn't understand. Our execs had never done action. So it was a huge learning curve in the beginning for Disney. But by the time we got to Dino Thunder, they loved it. They were very happy with it. They gave us a huge bonus. Like I know, and they don't give out money
Oh.
easy. So
Yeah.
the show was doing what they needed it to do, and we were very proud of it. We were proud to be able to take the Disney hallmarks
Yeah.
and make a really fun show. And also, we didn't have to use as much footage, which was very
Yeah.
freeing in some ways. If we needed a scene where a monster or a fight or something happened, we had the luxury of filming it, where we didn't have that before.
The dino story
How
was
did
really great, by the way.
Hmm?
Sorry.
Yes, the dino story was
The
great.
dino.
No, I was
The
going to say,
dino thunder. Yeah.
how did Jason end up coming back? Did Disney suggest that? Did you suggest that?
No, I mean, I know that's the lore too, but it was me. It was my idea.
Mm.
We had stayed in touch. We had
Bravo.
actually done a pilot together, or we had started doing a pilot. And Doug and Jason and I were doing a pilot for Universal, and then Universal got sold, and the pilot went away. But we'd always stayed in touch. We'd always wanted to work together. And then when Dino Thunder came, it was there was a Black Ranger and a White Ranger, and I thought it would. And the White Ranger kind of came in at the end, and I thought it would be kind of fun to bring in an adult character, an older character as the Black Ranger, and then to do like a reverse thing. And that's just kind of evolved into, we're like, well, kind of like Jason Frank. Well, why don't we just get Jason Frank? And we called him up, and he was interested,
Wow.
and there he was. And I brought back Austen, when we did the Tray of Triforia thing, like we
Yes.
brought him back earlier. I love working with the people that I love. So, I use the same people over and over again if I can. That's how I got reconnected with Nakia, because when I was working on Barbie, she was a voice on Barbie, and then we reconnected, and then I keep casting her in the Barbie stuff because I love working with her. So,
Yes. Yes.
Jason was magic, and he was a lovely actor to work with, and his character definitely was a fan favorite. So why wouldn't you bring it back? And I want to say the Disney response was like, "Oh, who?" Like they weren't really sure who he was. But they got on board. They got on board, and they recognized the benefit of having him come back.
So can you tell us about how I want the fans to hear this from the person behind the scenes. How did Austen end up coming back? And I'm sure that was really uncomfortable for him. But how did that happen? Because my recollection of that Gold Ranger situation was Eric Frank was considered, and then David Yost was considered, and then Brad Hawkins was considered, and we were like, what is going on? Like, who's it going to be, even as the actors? So how did that come about, if you can share?
Okay, now I have to go. I get mixed up because I don't think any of that was true, but it might have been. I mean, there might have been those rumors, those things might have been going around, but one day Shuki came in with a magazine with these triplets in it. And he's like, I want to cast them. He's like, I just want to cast them. I'm like, okay, and they were terrible. Like they couldn't act, and I don't mean to disparage anyone, but they'd never acted. They had these really, really strong Rhode Island accents, and like this isn't going to work. And and then the there wasn't. I think Austen may have wanted to come back. Like I really don't remember. I just remember we thought it would be fun stunt casting, but a lot of the casting choices were much more random than they seemed. Much more like Shuki woke up with an idea and then we did it.
No, I recently found out, and I don't remember this, that from Doug, that I was doing a screen test, and I was told it was we were doing footage for the transformation from me into the cat, but he said it was a screen test, and I'm like, so I don't even know if I was going to be sent back. And I'm like, I don't remember that at all. So it's hard because it was so 30 years ago. It's so long ago. Like trying to piece together and remember things can be a little tricky. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
I can. And
yes.
I mean, I don't recall it being like a big deal to bring Austen back, and
right.
He's back.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be back, frankly. That was my recollection at the time.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
And there was a big swerve too, right? Everyone thought it was someone else. It was Billy and da. So like, I mean, we were all caught up in the drama here. So
I mean, look, that was kind of the point, right? Like that was the idea.
Yes.
Okay, I got another question here.
You know, Brad Hawkins was the voice, right? Of the triplets? Yeah.
Yes.
Because they couldn't act, so we had to put somebody else in there.
Had to use a different voice. Oh dear.
I also, through Steve, I became friends with Brad Hawkins, and he as well told his story about like how he was the original White Ranger and all this stuff. And I remember seeing the pilot of the original Virtual Troopers or VR Troopers with JDF in it. I was like, wow, like the world's crazy. At least back then as a kid, right?
He's a sweetie. I did a season of VR Troopers also. Got to work with them, and he was lovely. He's a lovely guy.
He's a lovely person.
Look, Kat knows this more than anyone, especially Saban, but really throughout the industry, it's money. It all comes down to how are they going to make the most money, who's going to be the most valuable in what role to keep the status quo and not lose any of our fans and whatnot. So, unfortunately, they did make promises, they did get people's hopes up, and then they went a different direction.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so tough business.
Yeah, this one's from JL Leichter. I hope I said this right. Leichter. What was it being working on the Fox Kids days? Now, I want to add a little bit more to that too. Like, also, Saban was like at the end credits of every show back then on Fox Kids, including X-Men. So, yeah, I want to just throw that on there as a little side question if you can answer it at the end.
Yeah, Fox Kids was great. It was my favorite job of my life because it was my first real grown-up job. And we started something from nothing, and we became number one. Within 5 years, we were number one. And building something from nothing to that dynamic and powerful was amazing. Coincidentally, I'm actually working on a documentary right now about the history of Fox Kids. It only lasted 12 years, 1990 to 2002. And it was such a seminal moment in the history of kids TV. But it was also very sad, kind of marked the end of an era. Kind of as Fox Kids ended, it really was the shift from Saturday morning to cable, and then ultimately from cable, now we're into streaming. And so it was a kind of a magical moment, and it was a magical place. We were given so much freedom. I mean, I was really green, and Margaret just handed me a stack of Power Ranger scripts, and she's like, read all of these, give them your notes, make it a good show. I'm like, okay, I don't know, but I'm going to try. But she trusted us, and she backed us up, and we were able to do really, really innovative things. You're talking about X-Men. Coincidentally, the two of my best friends in the world, Eric and Julia Lee Wald, who largely ran X-Men the animated series, they're literally my neighbors. So we lived in the same town, and Amy Jo was too, by the way. All three of us lived within like a block of each other.
Oh, that's so funny.
I know it was a small world back then. But we were allowed, that came from Fox, like the directive to let the creatives tell their stories their way, not talk down to kids, deal with important issues when it was warranted. That was Margaret all the way. And Fox, Big Fox kind of hated it, to be honest, but it was successful, so they couldn't argue with it.
That's so cool. I'm marking out.
So
Sorry,
cool.
I'm over here like cheesing it up. I apologize, friends. This was from Kamen Rider 64. Did you also work on other Power Rangers like American Tokatsu adaptation shows like Beetleborgs, VR Troopers, and Masked Rider? I know you mentioned VR Troopers.
Yeah, I did do one season of VR Troopers. I did do Masked Rider, and I was on the development team for Beetleborgs.
Nice.
So I helped them get those scripts in order, but then I was too busy on the other shows to be an exec. So. Yeah.
I got a couple more super chats.
She was a busy, and she was a mother of 2 girls.
I know. Every time I'm on Power Rangers, I have a kid, and it's like I have 3 of them.
I don't know how you didn't pull out your hair with all this stuff ripping you side to side.
She's a very organized person.
Yeah, to do that job. Yeah. Yes. There you go. This one again is from JL. What was it like writing for the 2-parter King for a Day episodes?
Oh my gosh! Now you have to remind me which ones those were.
That was the one where Tommy gets taken by the Machine Empire, and they do the brain, like they make him evil basically, and he's fighting in like a gladiator, and then we have to come in and try and remind him who he is.
Oh, I love that one.
I did too.
I love that. I loved it. Real drama, a little bit of different kind of action. It was great. Yeah. Anytime we could do something where characters were taken out of their element and, had to stretch their wings, had to stretch their acting chops, it was really fun to write those kind of stories. That one in particular, the Gladiator.
I feel like 300.
And we loved it.
Yes. I feel like 300 and Gladiator stole that from you, by the way. You should get
that. Yes. Oh, yeah. Totally.
Get your flowers for that. Ryan Van Story.
I remember.
Oh, go ahead.
I remember just saying with those episodes when you would have like emotion, I remember being so excited, like, oh, I'm allowed to cry. I'm allowed to show like that I'm a real person. I'd have to be like superhero all the time. That's what I loved about that episode, and the episode with Tommy and getting the letter. And there was some really like emotional moments, Yeah. So
I think Zio and we were really coming into our own with that too.
Yeah.
We were really starting to, it was hardly the times, but, and now when I look back on it, it feels a little bit maybe over dramatic in places, but that, we wanted to push the drama. We wanted to have highs and lows, and that's the place we got to do that.
Zio was definitely the maturation point for Power Rangers, if you think about it, right? With all the shows that were surrounding it, like 90210 and Melrose Place and everything else that was, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Things were starting to come out little bit by little bit. So, yeah. This one's coming in from Ryan Van Story. And you've accomplished so much in your career. An Emmy is legendary. What's a bucket list goal you still hope to achieve in the future with your work?
Well, getting an Emmy is like crack. You want more.
You
want more. And I can tell you that it is more fun to win than to be nominated, and not win, because I've been nominated a number of times and not won. And it's way more fun when you win. But, I've never done an actual feature film. Like I've written long form for television, mini series and movies of the week kind of stuff. But I really would love to write a not grown up, but like a theatrical film. And of course, an Oscar would be nice. I don't know. Awards are nice. Those of us in the kids business, we very often are not respected. They don't view our writing as the same quality as what you would do in a primetime show. And it does feel good when you're recognized by your peers, because it's like somebody knows that we worked really hard to get that show to where it was, and it's nice to be recognized.
Yes, absolutely.
This was not a question. This is more of from JL again. I have an autograph by JDF back in 2013. I wish I had met him more back in the day. That's a lot of people share that sentiment for sure.
Such a foodie.
JL also sends this one in, and thank you so much, JL, for the super chats. Appreciate you. Ever hear of the Montyverse YouTube channel? They're watching Power Rangers Zio every Monday for the first time. Let me tell you something. When you watch
Wow.
something for the first time, I wish I can go back to that time where I turned on Power Rangers, and just took me over. That's a great feeling.
That is a great feeling. And you know what?
I love it.
That is the magic. That was why I knew this show would be a hit. Because the first time I saw it, when I saw the very first pilot, it took me back to my childhood. They tap into that
Mm,
pure joy of childhood. And I'm glad that
mm,
others now can, continue to experience that, because it's
yeah.
just magical. It just hits you right in the heart. It just hits you
Hmm.
right in that joy button. And that's what we want to do.
I
Remember,
love that.
Mm.
find that inner child and keep that inner child alive as long as possible.
I love
Yes,
that
I
so
love it.
much.
I love
This
that.
this next one's from Tom O'Neill. Thank you, Tom. You wrote on Dino Charge, "Love at First Fight." It's one of the funniest
Oh,
episodes. What is that? Beauty Cruel? Beauty Cruel, did I say that right? Is an iconic diva. Was it fun adapting the character?
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And thank you for saying it was a funny episode, because so much of my career is in drama or action or preschool, and so I love comedy. Though I love making people laugh, and when you get a fun, iconic character like that, you just go wild. So thank you, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. All that
In
anytime we
this
can be fun.
last one from JL, JL mentions, ever hear of an anime called Princess Half Demon? It deals with a girl dealing with human emotions.
I've not, but it sounds great.
All right, and that was it for the super chats. Thank you guys so much.
Thank
Those were
you.
great questions, and yeah, a lot of memories.
Yeah, so many great questions. And what's your perspective on current children's TV? What's I mean, you're still very much involved. What would you like to see? What are things that you're not enjoying seeing in the animation space?
Well, the business is in a bit of a crisis right now. It's really
Mm,
struggling to get a hold with kids. They're on YouTube and they're watching influencers, and they're not watching kids' TV. And there is no common gathering place like there used to be, Saturday morning and after school, where everyone could get together at the same
right.
time and watch the same shows. And so it's so fragmented. There's not a lot of unification out there. So kids aren't experiencing
Mm,
the same stuff. I really like Bluey. I think Bluey has
me
done
too.
a great job of, and it's done it by reaching parents. So it's one of those
Yes.
great kids shows that gets parents to see themselves in the show. So they want to sit down and watch it with the kids. And I think you're going
Mm,
to see more of that, because kids on their own are just so fragmented. It's just all over the place. Everyone has their one little thing here, a little thing there that they watch. Anime's having a
so
moment.
true.
Anime's having a moment, which is so funny, because we've been, those of us have been loving Japanese content for a long time. My Neighbor Totoro is like my favorite animated film of all time. But
I love it.
it's great that anime is having a moment, because they push real emotions. They push real drama. They kind of go there. So I'm glad to see that influence taking on a new life again. But we're struggling. We're struggling. Because kids, they say, if you look at Netflix, their top shows are preschool, and then like the teen or young adult. Like there's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in the
No,
middle.
it's so true.
They
Yeah, our
really
kids are watching things that are way too mature for them, I think. And that's one thing I appreciate about Bluey too, is it's very unifying for the family. It's something that the family can watch together. And that's definitely, I didn't even think about that. It's like we're in a world where everything's very piecemealed and there's no community. Because even when as a young adult, I would watch Melrose Place with my girlfriends, and it was something we could share and talk about together. But we're missing that because of streaming now. So it's a shame.
Yeah, and I'm kind of on a mission to bring that back. Like, how can we game the algorithm and start having appointment viewing so kids can all watch the same shows at the same time?
Yeah.
And that becomes their community. And if you look at,
Yeah.
the X-Men fan base, the Power Ranger fan base, that started when you built a community as a kid, and it's been with you your whole
Yes.
life.
And you'd play it on the playground together. Kids were playing Power Rangers together on the playground, and they were, with their brothers and sisters. I'm the Green Ranger, I'm the Pink Ranger, whatever they were doing. And yeah, it's like that's we've lost that. It's such a shame. Yes, bring it back, Ann. Ann's gonna bring it back.
I'm trying.
I feel like they're trying. If you was it almost 2 years ago now with X-Men 97, it is appointment viewing, right? Because it was every Wednesday, and there's shows that are trying it right out there without doing the whole binge method, which really blows because I enjoy having to go see Peacemaker every Thursday, right? And then immediately on the group chat texting with the guys, like, did you guys see the new Alien show? That's the biggest rave right now. Everyone's just texting each other talking because it's appointment viewing. But for kids, I would love for that to come back, like that feeling of clicking on the TV and just, streaming is great. It's whatever, but I mean, but yeah, we have one more from Ryan Van's story.
Yes.
Big one here. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Children's TV show writers and actors deserve way more recognition. They truly impacted a lot of our childhood foundations. 1000%. Power Rangers especially taught me to never give up, and that showing kindness truly does matter. 100%.
Wow. Well, you've discovered our secret that those of us in the kids business know we have so much power, so much responsibility though, but it's overwhelming at times, but you have to take that seriously, that you are touching a child's life, and what you're teaching them or showing them is going to be with them for life. And I think you're right. Thank you. We don't get enough for how much of an impact we have on their lives.
It's so true. And if you come, I would love you to come and just sit with us at a convention someday and hear what these people say to us, and how your stories made them want to be a doctor, wanted to join the military, wanted to be a teacher. Like, it's because of the characters you created. We were fortunate enough to be able to be the face of what you created. So you should come and be celebrated by all these beautiful fans, because you guys are the reason the show was so successful.
Well, thank you. It was a team effort, though. Let's be honest. Like, it was a total team effort. The whole cast, the whole crew, everybody put together something really magical. And I don't know, that was part of the fun and part of the success. But it's hard for me to hear compliments, but I've been doing this for a while, and I do hear that from fans. I do hear that from the millennials, who I do call my children today. Because you guys were my children before my actual children. My children are a little younger. Millennials were my first round at being a parent. And I see the influence, and I'm proud of it, and I'm happy to have been a part of your childhood.
Yes, well, she's a very humble person.
Thank you. I want to say thank you. And I know we got about 3 more minutes. So, and really quickly, rapid fire. If you were handed the reins right now in 2025, how would you see writing Power Rangers? Would it be more mature, or for like a mature teenage and up version? Doesn't necessarily have to be for adults. Or would you still use that core element of children's television?
Good question.
If I was, I wouldn't go dark. Like, I personally wouldn't go dark. I would try to tap into that same joy that we gave children from day one. Now, I do love, sharp, funny dialogue, great visual effects. Like, I would bring the production quality up to modern standards, because now we have that at our disposal. But I would try and honor that original legacy, that original vibe, because I think that's what made it so special. So it's, it's for kids, but
what age?
I've always enjoyed it.
What age group would you like to see them target as a current series?
Well, maybe let's put this out there. Maybe we can get the 7, 8, 9-year-olds back to TV. When we were on Fox, when the show was on Fox, we actually skewed all the way up to 13, which was kind of unheard of. We had 9, 10, 11-year-olds who today it would be unheard of to have that age group watching a kid's show. So I would love to try to put that big umbrella back together again, so that it's good for younger ones, but it's got enough meat for those 9, 10, 11-year-olds, who deserve to still have their childhood honored and still feel like a kid. But then, adults like it too. So, but with
Yeah.
the adult co-viewing situation.
Yeah, I like that.
That was
Alex, do you have another question?
No, that was, I mean, for me, I thank you so much. I'll be completely honest with you. Kat explained it, how you brought these stories to life with them as characters, right? Which in initially just activated our thoughts and helped us become who we were as viewers, right? They were playing out those stories that you were writing. And I'll be honest, like I told this to Kat, tell this to Nakia, tell this to everybody, right? Like, it's insane that if I were to go back and tell 11-year-old me that I'd be sitting here with Kat talking to her and also being able to talk to someone who was, in the core element part of the show, like yourself, I'd be laughing at myself. Like, yeah, get out of here, nerd. You old man. Who are you? But here we are. You've shaped a lot of it. You've helped people like myself find myself at such a young age. And now lived up to my dreams to be able to be part of this entertainment industry myself, and also sit here with Kat, Nakia, and everyone else who's worked on Power Rangers and have these really cool moments. So thank you.
Oh,
Alex.
Thank you. That's so sweet. And I'm so glad that you had your dream come true. And that's what we live for. That's what we live for. Oops, sorry. My daughter's home. Shut up. Sorry.
Wow.
That was a 90s throwback right there, sounded like. I love that.
Sorry.
Anne, is there anything else you'd like to share before we let you go? Thank you so much for giving this hour to us and our fans. I'm so excited.
I could have socials too.
Yes. So share your socials, where the fans can find you, and anything you'd like to share about anything you have coming up that we can watch.
Well, keep an eye out for that documentary. I am working on a Fox Kids documentary. It's going to be probably a year from now before we get it out there, but that'll be coming out. And I'm just on Ann Austen at AnnAusten.com. I think so. Like, no dots, just all ANNAUSTEN at AnnAusten.com. And it's just so fun. Kat, I wouldn't have done this without you and Nakia. Like, I really have tried to stay out of the limelight. I'm not someone who likes to be on camera, and I love those memories to just live on. I don't want to say anything that might dispel your happy memories. So I hope I didn't dispel any of those happy memories. I'm very proud of my time on the show, and it's been a part of my life for a long time, and I'm happy to talk about it because it was such a special experience.
Oh, well, you're amazing, and thank you so much for your time. And I know you've really been. It's been such a joy for them to hear this. And we could have talked for another hour, but
anytime I'm here. You know where
Yay!
to find me. Okay.
We maybe we'll get her back, you guys.
If they want,
thank you, Anne.
By popular demand, bring me back just like you brought back Tommy Oliver. Bring me back if you.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Anne.
Love you.
Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, that was amazing, you guys. I hope that just filled your buckets. She's got so many amazing stories. We could have talked for another hour, but I hope that just gave you guys a little insight into the behind the scenes of Power Rangers.
That was amazing. I'm still in awe with the stories. I mean, Kat, I'm a storyteller. I work in the industry where we tell stories, and to know that she's working on this Fox Kids documentary, that's huge, because that's going to affect millions of people that lived in that era. So, yeah.
Yes, it's going to be pretty awesome. And I know Nakia's helping with that too. And we've been consulting a little bit. So she's got it's going to be pretty epic. Yeah. And it's not going to be like any of the other documentaries you've seen. It's going to be pretty epic. So, yes.
Take my money. Take it now.
Yeah. Well, hopefully streaming, you won't have to pay. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have any other questions that you'd like us to ask Anne, please, you can always put them in the comments or message us on Instagram. And thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye, guys. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Bye, everybody. See you.